All right, welcome back to Business Casual. I'm here with agent Rachel Luba, one of my regular guests. And people have been asking us a lot recently if we think there's going to be baseball in 2020. And the answer is a resounding yes. I'm very convinced that there will be baseball in 2020, but not for the same reasons that many of you might be convinced of that. So you want to explain why you think there will be baseball in 2020?
Yeah, so it makes sense to me that there's a huge incentive for baseball to play enough games to get to the postseason. And that's because in the postseason, that's where the teams are making their most money and revenue from the TV deals.
Yeah.
So if you look at the money they're generating from the gates throughout the season, it's not that much compared to the revenue that they're getting when they make it to the postseason. So by having a postseason, they're able to cash in on those TV deals. So playing as however many games that they need, and there's a minimum to be able to have a postseason.
What is that minimum?
I think it's
like 60 games, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they need at least.
I'm pretty sure it's 60 games.
Right.
So you have to have at least 60 games for the season to be counted as an official season. And so if you play 60 games, again, I'll have to fact check this number because I'm not positive it's 60. It's either 60 or 100, but I'm pretty sure it's 60.
Yeah, both those numbers sound possible.
It's one of the two.
Yeah.
But as long as they play 60 games, the season is eligible to have a postseason. And then per the TV deals, there's two types of TV deals. You have local TV deals. So that's your local TV deal in whatever market in Cleveland, Cincinnati, and LA.
Sports Time Ohio.
Local regional Fox Sports networks. And then, you have national TV deals, which is your ESPN, your Fox, your overall Fox. I'm missing one. There's another one. There's a major one. Anyway, those ones broadcast the postseason games, and that's where the big money comes from.
FS1 does postseason, I think, and is it TBS or NBC?
It's one of those. It's ESPN, the Fox network, and there's
I think it's TBS.
It's probably TBS.
TBS that does it. Because it's not on your normal network. So they broadcast the postseason, and that's a handsome sum of money for teams. So being able to have a postseason, they're losing out on obviously a great deal of money as our players right now.
Right.
But if they can cash in on the postseason, that's huge for them.
Yeah, so from a business perspective, if you're looking at how to save your bottom line, how to minimize your losses in a time when everyone's losing, your lower class is losing, people are getting laid off all the way to your upper class when there's no market, there's no business going on. So everybody right now is losing. But the business owners are looking at how to minimize losses as much as possible. So the best way for them to minimize losses is to play as few games as possible.
So they don't have to pay you guys.
So they don't pay the players because player costs are by far the largest expense that a team has every year, right?
And right now they're paying you guys, it's been agreed upon, a prorated salary. So if you play 80 games, you will get 80 games worth of your salary this year. So assuming it was 186,
assuming if you're making 10 million this year and you play only 81 games instead of 162, instead of making 10 million, you will make 5 million. And so whatever percentage of the normal allotment of games, then you'll make that percentage of your agreed upon contract. So the best way for them to save the bottom line is to
play as few games as possible so that they can have a postseason and then have the postseason and cash in. But
because they don't pay players in the postseason.
Well, yeah, so that's what we should talk about is what happens. I don't know if a lot of fans realize how salaries work in the postseason. Are players getting paid in the postseason? Are all players getting paid? What about, you would think, the World Series champs, right? Are they making a ton of money in the postseason?
Nope.
So why don't you kind of explain shares?
Yeah, shares. Teams vote. Yeah, there's a lot here that the common fan doesn't know anything about, which I think is what makes this conversation interesting. You get paid a salary based on the regular season games. And then the postseason happens, but that's not agreed upon. Like, your salary isn't agreed upon for the postseason because not every team makes the postseason.
It is, well, it's agreed upon in the collective bargaining
right,
agreement.
in the collective bargaining agreement, but not in negotiations with the team to
Yeah.
decide your yearly contract. So the negotiated salary split in the postseason for players is governed, like you said, by the collective bargaining agreement. We get 50%.
So here's how you get player shares is what they're called.
Yeah.
So only
a certain
teams,
a certain percentage of the overall money that's generated by postseason baseball,
and I can explain,
goes to the players.
So I can explain. So that's the player shares.
Right.
So it's only again for players that are in the postseason. So
Yeah.
everybody else who doesn't make the postseason, that's it. They're
Yeah,
not getting
they
paid.
don't get paid, which makes sense.
So now the players that are in the postseason are going to get a division of the player shares depending on how far their team makes it into the postseason.
Right. So right now we have four stages of the postseason. We have wild card game, the division series, the championship series, and the World Series.
So the way it works is you get the way that the player shares are calculated in the total pool of money is in the wild card game, you guys split 50-50 for gate revenue with the owners.
And gate revenue is the amount of money that's generated by the in-person experience at the ballpark.
Yes.
So that's ticket sales prices, that's concessions, that's whatever else.
So you guys split 50-50 for the wild card game.
Because there is only one wild card game right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you get 60% for the division series of the first 3 games.
Right. So however many games it would take to win that series. So if it's a best 3 of 5,
then you get 60% of the first three. But now what if it goes 4 and 5? You guys don't get paid for that.
right.
You don't get anything. So you're only getting 60% of the first 3 for the division, and then you have a 7 series for the championship.
Now
So
so let's say we're in Cincinnati and we host a division series and we only play 3 games and we sweep and we go on. But let's say the people in New York, let's say the Yankees are playing, they're in the American League and we're in the National League and the Yankees have a division series, but they're going to draw a lot more fans. Those ticket prices are a lot more expensive.
And let's say they play 5. They
Right.
have to go 5.
So do we get, is it just for our home market?
So it's calculated. This is the entire pool of money that's
so
divided in the end.
Yeah,
so I'm just
all
explaining.
postseason baseball gets dumped into one pool.
Right.
And then
So
that
this is
pool
what I'm
is divvied
explaining.
up.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
So how the pool is. We're just talking about how do we get the money that's in this pool that now then it's going to be divided, and you can explain that better. So you have 60%. So you're getting the higher percentage compared to the owners for the division series. Again, though, you're not getting paid for games 4 and 5, so it's only the first 3. For the championship series, you have the best of 7. So the players are going to get 60% of the gate revenue from the first 4 games, right? Because you would need 4 to win it. And then same with the World Series. You'll get 60% of the gate revenue for the first 4 games. So then you take all that money in the end, and obviously the team that wins the World Series is going to get, out of that pool, they're going to get the largest chunk of it because it's all split up percentage.
It's split up
depending
proportionally, right?
Right.
So if let's say there's 50 total postseason games played in all the levels.
Whoever plays
and the
wins
World
with
Series
it.
champion may have been a part of 15 of them, but the wild card loser was only part of 1 of them. So the losing wild card team in the very first round would get 1/50th of the pool for the players, whereas the World Series champion would get 15
They would get
50ths.
even if they didn't play, like going to Game 5 or games in every series. The World Series team would still be considered to have played the most, the winners.
Well, yeah, it's split. So you just take the total number of games and however many
Yeah.
games your team played in, right? You get that percentage of the overall pot for the players.
Yeah. but the losing team in the World Series technically could have played more games.
Yeah, that's true.
But
okay.
so that's what I'm explaining is that they're not. I'm pretty sure it's the World Series. The winners would get the most.
Yeah. There has to be. Yeah, you're right. There is a split. There's a split.
I think it's depending on just how far you get into the postseason.
Yeah, that's okay. So if you get knocked out in the wild card, there's a certain level. If you get knocked out in the division series, there's a certain level. And then once you get to the World Series winning team makes the higher percentage than the loser, but the loser still makes the second most overall money. Okay.
So then the player share, let's say, I want to say last year with the Nationals, it was like, I want to say it was around like 80 million. I could be wrong. That the player share that they got. So now that team gets those shares. And how is it divided?
I can talk about what happened in Cleveland. In 2016. So we get a certain amount of money. We played all the way through Game 7 and we lost. So we get the second highest amount of money. Before the postseason happens, the players sit down and they decide how that money is going to be divvied up. Because there's a lot of people that go into winning. So you have the players, but what about the guy that was there for the first 3 months and then got released that helped win some games? Or the guys that came up for 15 total days and then went back and forth to the minor leagues, they helped win some games. Then you have the clubhouse staff that is with you every single day, your athletic trainers, your strength and conditioning coaches, your coaching staff. Well, the coaching staff is different. But, you have your massage therapist, the chefs, you have the bat boys, you have the people who, the security guards. There's a lot of people that go into, the traveling secretary, into making a season happen for a team. So we sit down as player group and we vote on who is going to get those shares. So in order to be part of the player group that votes, you have to have more than, I believe it's more than half of the games that season of big league time. So as long as you have basically 3 months or more in the big leagues that year, you're part of the voting group. So the voting group gets together and you go down the list of all the people who are eligible. And you say, okay, voting on everyone that has full year of service time is guaranteed a full share. Right.
And you have a certain number, like 6 or however many shares you have, and then you have partial shares too, and things like that.
Yeah, so you can give out as many or as few shares as you want, and you can do it in 3 different ways. You can give a cash bonus where it's not a full share; it's just a strict cash amount. You can give a partial share, which is a quarter of a full share or a 3/8 or whatever it is. And then you can give a full share. And so this is voted on by the player voting group. So you say, okay, how about the security guard that guards the clubhouse 81 games a year? And you're like, okay, well, we all vote that he gets a $10,000 bonus. Okay, we mark that down on a sheet. Okay, what about, such and such player who was up for 4.5 months but is no longer with the team? Well, we think he should get 3/4 share, or he was a big part of it and let's give him a full share. So, and it has to be a majority vote. So if you have, let's say 20 players in the room, and
it could be kind of awkward though, right? Or kind of contentious, and I mean,
it does get awkward. So there's a time when a player would come up, let's say in September, because this has happened before. A player will come up in September and he'll pitch 4 or 5 times, or he'll hit a couple games and he'll perform really well and he'll make the postseason roster. So what do? Do you give him a full share for being on the postseason roster?
Yeah.
Or do you give him a partial share because he's only there for?
Well, he could have been really clutch. I mean, you guys think about it.
He might start in on the wild card game. If you have to play the wild card game, he might have to start in that. Either
you have an injury or something.
Yeah, as a pitcher or in left field, or he might come in and be a pinch runner. I know this happens with the Royals a lot, and Gore. They would call him up in September, and he would pinch run, and then he was on the postseason roster just to pinch run. So then the players have to decide: do you give him a full share, a half share? What's fair? What about guys that came up and were injured and came back and only played whatever? So you have to vote on these things, and then sometimes it gets kind of contentious where it's like 8 people really want to give the chefs a full share because they cook and they took really good care of them, and then other people are like, no, man, they didn't do that good a job. We didn't think they were good, or we didn't like the food, or we wanted whatever it is. And then you have this argument going back and forth among players, and this happens basically as soon as you clinch. So let's say you clinch the last day of the season, and you're going to the postseason. You play the wild card game on Tuesday. On Monday, you're sitting down and having to decide, and now you have these arguments that are potentially going back and forth.
So you guys decide this before you even begin the postseason.
Correct, right? And then the total overall amount, just to give people a reference, first off, it's taxed. So we got, I think, in the high 300s.
Yeah.
So in Cleveland, we gave out, I think, around 70 shares, total shares, between cash prizes and partial shares and full shares. So we had about 70 player shares, and then we got each like 380,000 or something. So by the time that it got taxed and all the fees and everything taken out, we're getting about $260,000 for the entirety of the postseason.
Yeah, so I think I read something where I think Colin McHugh with the Astros in 2017 when they won, I think he got the highest share out of anybody, or the highest amount out of anybody. I don't know if he got an extra cash bonus or, but he ended up taking around like $400 and something thousand. Now, for a guy who's making the minimum around $550, that's a good amount of money.
No doubt.
That's almost double
Yeah.
your entire year's salary. But to put it in context, I mean, a guy who's making $30 million, what is he making a month then?
Well, there's 12 pay periods, right? So you get paid for 6 months, you get paid every 2 weeks. So if let's just say 24, because we can divide that really easily, every pay period, if you're making $24 million, there's 12 pay periods, you're getting $2 million a pay period. There's 2 pay periods per month.
Per month.
So that's $4 million per month. Now that's prior to taxes and all that.
So even if it's $2 million, let's say
so
50
you clear,
of the government.
so 50% goes away. You clear $2 million a month. Now for a full month of postseason play, you might clear 300,000.
And who are the real, the people that are really carrying you through the postseason and allowing these teams to get their big TV deals are the players. And the players are coming out making, so a guy who's making, let's say, $4 million a month is now going to get, if they win the entire thing, and
basically 10% of his monthly salary.
That's what he will get paid for being, the city's
for playing
hero.
The highest leverage, getting the city, all these visitors for the World Series, the influx, all the hotels, all the TV, all the exposure, all the merch, all the everything.
And that's another month that you're taxing your body.
Right.
That you can't recover, that you can't spend time with your family, that you can't, that you are throwing or hitting. That's
a lot of
taxing
people are
on your
playing
body.
through injuries at that point because it's like, this is the postseason, I got to be out there.
Yeah.
Guys got sprained ankles that need surgery, that are getting taped up.
What was it in Boston? That was great. It was Eduardo.
Oh yeah.
What was it?
Nunez.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
you just see, can barely walk.
Can't walk, and
but he
goes
gets
out there
and he's getting the team. How much money are the Red Sox making? And he's taking away, under $500,000.
Yeah. So this is.
But you're not even getting the TV
deals, right? So the national TV deals that we talked about earlier are loaded up in a way where they pay. Everything is pretty heavily backloaded. So they'll pay a little bit in the beginning of the season for lower leverage games, and as the season goes along and the games get higher and higher leverage, they pay more and more for those rights. So they're paying the vast majority of the money for the postseason games, of which the players are seeing none of.
And it's not even like you're getting all the revenue from the gate. You get for the DS through the World Series, you get 10% more than the owners.
Yeah. For the first 3 or 4 games.
Yeah, and then you're not even getting paid.
So think about this for a second.
How much was the World Series Game 7, the gate revenue?
Well, so check this out. So we get tickets, and we have to buy our tickets for the postseason.
Yeah, wait, I think you should explain that.
Yeah.
So I don't think a lot of fans know that you guys, and throughout the season, your tickets aren't free.
Right.
You're getting taxed. You pay tax on them.
Yeah, we pay.
I think it's about, is it $30 a ticket?
It
ends up being?
something about that because it depends on the face value of the ticket because we get taxed on 60% of the face value of the ticket.
But they're usually good tickets.
So it's the face value is that the tickets are usually $150 or $200 tickets that we get in the family section. So if it's a $100 ticket, we get taxed on $60, and so in our tax bracket that usually comes out to be about $30 because it's about 50%.
I think a lot of people think that you guys just get free.
Yeah, we don't.
Free tickets.
But in the postseason, we don't get free tickets either. We get two free tickets, and they're kind of down the line, and they're often provided by the teams. If we want more tickets, we have the chance of purchasing those before the postseason. You have to purchase a full postseason's worth of tickets.
Yeah.
So even if you play one game in the postseason, you have to purchase all the way through the World Series. Now you get reimbursed for it if you get knocked out, but you have to purchase at one time. So some of these ticket booklets can be $15,000, $20,000 depending on how many you want. I think I spent about $17,000 on tickets for the 2016 postseason.
That's a lot. I mean, that's a good amount for guys who are making minimum too.
Right, and you consider that that's again coming out of basically your postseason player shares. Taxes come out first, then you have to pay for the tickets, then you all this. Mm-hmm. You're probably paying to have your family stay in a hotel, and there's all this travel costs and stuff like that. But so we pay for tickets. So in the World Series, I looked at the value of my tickets, and I just went on like StubHub just to see what the value of those tickets were, because the face value is $500 or whatever. But on the secondary market, they're selling for in game 1 or 2 of the World Series in Cleveland, they're selling for $5,000 or $8,000. But by game 7, those tickets are selling for $25,000 or $30,000 because they're right behind home plate, and it's one of the most historic World Series. You got the Cubs and these 2 long droughts and stuff like that. So you just think about how the gate accelerates as the series gets towards game 7. And once we get past game 3 or game 4, depending on the series, we don't make any of that money. So the vast majority of the money the ticket prices go up dramatically, and we get paid none of that in the last 3.
And you guys also, just so that I think fans know, you guys cannot sell them.
Yeah, we cannot sell them.
And
right.
that you get in big trouble if you do.
Yeah, so
they will catch you.
They 100% will catch you. You can't get around it. I just did the math in my head on if I sold my tickets for games 3 through 7 3 through 5. So just the games in Wrigley in 2016. If I sold my tickets, the tickets that I had, I paid probably $4,000 or $5,000 for those tickets, and I could have generated $420,000 if I had sold all of them.
Way more than your share.
Way more than my share. Yeah, but I can't because it's in the rules, and there's a lot of good reasons for that. But that's some of the kind of hidden dollar value and financial stuff that goes on that fans might not realize about the postseason. Players take a huge pay cut and get, they don't get any of the TV deals, which is massive dollars. So teams, to kind of reconnect this all back to how we started this conversation, I think there's going to be baseball this year. I think there's going to be about 60 games of baseball, or whatever the cutoff. If it's 100, I got to fact check that. If it's 100 games to make the postseason viable, then there'll be about 100 games. If it's 60 games to make the postseason viable, there'll be about 60 games. That's my guess.
And if it even has to be, 7-inning games, and you have to have double headers,
they will do whatever it takes to get at least that minimum number so they can get the postseason. And they've also been talking about expanding the postseason.
Oh, perfect. So, so they're going to get more money.
More TV money that we don't see any of. Mm-hmm. More teams overall. So there's more potential to play past that threshold of games where they can make all the gate.
Yep.
And after if it's 60 games and they have to play 1 month of playing doubleheaders every single day with no off days, they'll do whatever it takes to do that. And so this is kind of the state that baseball's in. So all the fans out there that just want to get games back, all the players want to get out there and play too. And just know that the owners and the incentive here is to play as, at least how I see it. This is my opinion. I could be wrong. I don't run a big league team, so I could be missing something here. But in breaking down the incentives in the industry, and as at least from my chair, the incentive of the owners is to play as few games as possible to be eligible for the postseason so they can minimize their losses as much as possible. Especially given that those postseason games this year are probably going to go for a lot more because it's going to be the only live sporting event going on.
But, hold on, plot twist, if there are no fans allowed.
Ooh.
What happens then? The player shares, that's going to be an issue because gate revenue is going to be
0.
Yeah. So you're going to play. Now, I think that's going to be something that will be.
It has to be negotiated.
It will be negotiated by the union and MLB, but it's an issue because if the way it's looking right now, my opinion, and I think yours, too, is that there will be a postseason. There will be baseball and they will play as many as they can, as few as they need to get a postseason. But the way it's looking, I don't know if they're going to be fans. We see in Taiwan, they're already playing baseball, but there are no fans. They put little mannequins.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
6 feet apart too,
Yeah.
to set a good example. But that's what's going to happen is there probably will be a postseason, but there also probably won't be fans. And that means no gate revenue, which means you get 60%, in the DS, CS, and championship of 0.
Yeah.
So
they get all the TV money.
Yeah.
And they don't have to pay players anything.
You mean you'll probably get half your salary, your contract this year?
Maybe.
Yeah. Well, yeah. For the season, and then they don't have to play them any. Yeah.
Yeah. If there's only 60 games, I get a third of my negotiated salary, which will be slightly less than $6 million, taxed. Still a lot of money, but relative to what I could make, and then relative to what the owners will make on the postseason games and the TV deals, and all that.
And the TV deals.
All the merchandise too. All the merchandise that you sell after the World Series, it builds the brand of the team, and the players see the traditional percentage of that. They have a merchandise split with the owners and stuff, but nothing additional for the higher leverage games. So just a little deep dive into the industry, the business of baseball, and how players and owners negotiate, and what the incentives are right now. Players right now are incentivized to play as many games as possible because we want to get our full amount of pay. Owners are incentivized to play the absolute minimum number of games in order to have a postseason to protect the bottom line. I have no idea how it's going to turn out. I have my guesses based on just my analysis that I've kind of gone over here, but we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. How many games we end up playing, what gets negotiated, how players are compensated for postseason baseball. Because originally when this thing happened, I was about 85% sure that there would be baseball this year. I'm well into the 90s that there will be baseball this year.
Do you think what are the odds that if they start the season, that they would not be able to get enough games to have?
No.
That's what I think. If they play baseball, they will find a way 100%. To have enough games
if
for
we
a
have to play
postseason.
split double headers, 7-inning games for a month straight with no off days, that's what's going to happen. And
you guys will get to. You guys get to,
we have to agree
on it, but if you think about it, even from the player's perspective, even though that sucks, like or you guys are gonna want to play to get. You're gonna want to get some money.
Here's a question. If it gets to that point where we're only going to play around 60 games, is the player incentive then to play only 59 so that the teams lose out on all that revenue? Because the players aren't going to see any of it anyway, so play 59 games instead of 60?
But you can't make that. I mean, yeah, maybe, but you can't make that decision. And right. Because how valuable
it has to be
is
jointly agreed upon.
But they can't.
And there's an agreement in place that both sides will operate in good faith and attempt to get back on the field as soon as possible. But
I'd like to think there's the good guys and the bad guys in this.
Yeah, I think there's.
I mean, that's the reality of it.
Yeah, I don't think there's operating in good faith. I think there's the bottom line, and are you in the red or are you in the black? So that's what we got for this episode. Let us know what you think of it. Any other topics that you'd like to hear us discuss? Any other inside information that you'd like to hear, let us know. We're quarantined right now with not much else to do, so providing information and entertainment, hopefully, for all you guys out there. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, leave me a like, leave me a comment. Let everybody know that this channel exists. Like I said, we're doing it to entertain you guys and help me on my goal of getting to 100,000 subscribers by the end of 2020. Till next time, see ya.